right, today we have Ashley Christopher, who is the founder of HBCU Week. Ashley, give me a quick, say, minute and a half of who was Ashley, let's say, as a 14-year-old little girl.
Oh my goodness. We're starting there. As a 14-year-old little girl, I would say, if you asked anybody else, they would probably describe me as kind of rebellious, um, always questioning things. Even if, most people aligned with a specific school of thought, I always had a question. And sometimes at that age, it could come off as maybe disrespectful. Towards authority. But I think it was just my mind developing into the attorney that I am today. I think the little personality traits that sometimes you see in children as they grow, obviously they need to be, somewhat tempered and filtered and cultivated. But you can see who a person is as they start to grow up through their reactions, their questions, their just everyday movements. And I think the questioning of authority was one of the things that really developed me into, a licensed attorney. And I didn't always have the best tact in delivering my questions as a child, so I found myself in trouble a lot. But I think looking back, I wouldn't really trade the experiences or change who I was, because it was just, a kid growing into her own. So I think that's the best way to describe me at 14.
I have a son that is in the ninth grade, and I'm pushing him to become an attorney. So I
Okay.
want him to get a degree in business. I want him to become an attorney and then kind of nix his love for basketball with being an attorney with business and nix it all together. But I don't want to force him into any direction. I'm just giving him some different ideas. What do you think about that? What do you think about becoming an attorney for a young Black man that's a pretty good basketball player in the ninth grade? Do you think that's something I should push, or not really?
Well, I will say this. Being an attorney, you don't have to follow a traditional path. I did not. So when I went to law school, and even before law school, in my mind, I was going to be a criminal defense attorney and an entertainment attorney. Nobody could tell me anything different. So I went through the process, got into law school, passed the bar in a few states, and I started this clerkship opportunity that would allow me to see real time, cases presented before judges in three different court systems. And I learned that the traditional role of an attorney was not for me. But what I did find was that what you learn in law school, it's transferable across any area that you want to work in. It is a skill set that is very unique, but it's also very diverse. So he could use that for whatever he wants to do. I'll also say it's an expensive, option. So if he does not want to be an attorney in the traditional sense, we got to go after some scholarship dollars for him so he doesn't accumulate a lot of debt. But being an attorney is incredible for anybody to have in their back pocket, whether you're in the courtroom every day or you choose a different path.
And that's what I like about it. I like how broad and how you can, if you're an attorney, you can kind of nix that onto anything that you do. So
Hmm.
I read you're a stroke survivor.
Yes.
Going through that, what did it teach you about yourself? Were you more resilient than you had given yourself credit for? Did it make you more focused on legacy and impact? Tell me, from experiencing that stroke, how did it open up some different things in who you are and how you looked at yourself?
Yeah. Wow. You hit the nail on the head when you mentioned resiliency. It really brought a lot out of me that I didn't know was there. I'm 29 years old. I wake up one morning and I cannot feel or move the entire right side of my body. Relatively, well, I would say I was healthy, I'm regular checkups. Um, my weight class was normal for my height and my age. I'm active. And in full transparency, it was caused by the use of oral contraceptives. So, birth control, even though they have that little fine print that stroke and heart attacks and all those diseases are a side effect, a lot of people kind of bypass that because I guess the pros outweigh the cons for them. But I'm one of the people in the minority that did suffer a stroke from birth control use. Um, and it took me to a place where I really, I'm a spiritual person. So it was just me and God. And I had to figure out, like, what am I supposed to learn from this? What can I give back to demonstrate and show people, like, this is how this happened, this is how you can avoid it, and how am I going to get through it myself at 29? I had to learn how to write again. um, so there was a lot of questions I had, and I saw an interview very recently with Lauren London, and she made a comment that you don't really have a true relationship with God until you're questioning Him, until you're like mad at Him. Like, how did you? Why are you putting me in this situation? What did I do to deserve this? How am I going to claw my way out of it? Like, I'm 29. I'm a young Black woman. I'm trying to start my business, get my footing in corporate America, and I have to recover from a stroke. So it brought a lot of strength, tenacity, resilience out of me that I didn't even know was there. I'd always considered myself a relatively strong person, but that's when I really knew, because I had to dig deep. I had to garner the strength to go through the therapy, to learn to write again. I had to, sit with my thoughts and process. Like, yes, you had a stroke, and yes, we have to figure out how to move past it and get through it and heal from it. So there were a lot of moments where I questioned a lot of things, but I'm still here. I'm grateful for the opportunity. I had to sit down and think about things and kind of isolate myself for a while. And I wouldn't have had that time or opportunity to do that but for that incident. So, HBC Week was born after the stroke. And from a different perspective, I also, focused in on my health at a different level. So I became more active than I was. I relied on the hereditary aspect of me just being a smaller person. Like, I don't really have to work out all the time to maintain my weight, but I still need to be active and make sure that I'm having some movement. So I changed that part of my lifestyle, and I implemented another diet, which I say this with a little bit of hesitation, because sometimes when people eliminate things from their diet, they look at other people like, why are you eating that? I'm not that person. I don't eat meat, I don't eat seafood, and it works for me. It feels good for me. That's a lifestyle choice that I adopted for me. And I encourage people to look at what works for them. Everybody doesn't have the same plan. Everybody doesn't have, there's no blueprint to health, right? There's different things for different people, but yeah, it changed some lifestyle things for me, and it really developed a strength that I didn't know I had.
On the first day of every one of my diets, and I've ate well for half the day, I ride past Popeyes and judge everybody. I'm like, what's wrong with you? So
Yeah.
I get
Yeah.
it. I get it. Tell me about your HBCU journey. Like, what made you go to a HBCU? Who initially put the seed in your head, and then how was the journey?
Yeah, well, both of my parents are college graduates. Neither one of them attended an HBCU. So they made sure they told me, my sister, my brother, go to an HBCU. So I always knew that that was going to be the path. I just didn't know which one. So I settled in on Spelman. I thought, you know what, this is probably a great choice for me. I want to go to Spelman. But I told you, I was kind of rebellious when I was a child. So my parents ended up sending me to an all girls Catholic high school. And after that experience, I did not want to go to Spelman. I was like, I cannot do all girls again. So Howard quickly became my first choice during my high school experience. And it helped because my sister was there. She's 2 years older than me. And she was on the Ooh La La dance team. We went down to see her and the games and the band and the HBCU experience and the homecoming. It was just like, I'm sold. I want to come here. Um, but I was also a high school student that did what she had to do just to get by. I consider myself to be relatively smart, so I didn't need to work hard to get a B or a C plus, right? So I would just kind of coast through, get my grades, and move on. So when I initially applied to Howard, I was rejected. I got a rejection letter, and in my mind at that time, I'm like, I think they made a mistake. So in my kind of obnoxious and entitled mind as a high school student, I made a call to the university and like, I think you guys made a mistake. You mailed me a rejection letter. And they were like, very nicely, they responded and said, no, ma'am, it was not a mistake. We have a competitive applicant pool, and unfortunately, you didn't meet the mark. So I told them, it started to set in like, okay, well, this is a problem. This is serious. And what am I going to do? So I asked if there was any alternative, anything I could do to enforce, a reconsideration of some sort. So they said, you have one last recourse. You can write us a letter, advocate for your admission. We'll review it and let you know. And this was that whole attorney like spirit that I had in me. I'm a natural advocate for myself and other people. I question everything. So I wrote the letter. It took me a few times to be like okay with it. But I finally wrote it, sent it out. And then 2 weeks later, I had an acceptance package on my doorstep from Howard. So I knew that this was going to be a special journey. I've learned over the course of time that nothing that's worth it will be easy. And, just advocating for myself in that moment, it taught me so much. And I was so excited to just get the journey started. So when I got to Howard, I jumped right in. I was active in a bunch of organizations. I became the vice chair of Howard Homecoming. I was the community service chair of my state club. I was initiated at Alpha Chapter Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. So I was very active and involved on campus, and it was the best decision I could have ever made in my life to advocate for myself at that moment, because my high school counselors were encouraging, University of Delaware, the state schools, and the smaller institutions that were local. Not once did they ever mention an HBCU to me. So I'm grateful for my parents who encouraged me to go in that direction. And the rest is history, because but for me advocating and getting that acceptance and going to Howard, I don't know if HBCU Week would have ever been born.
I want to piggyback off a couple of things. You said you're an advocate for yourself, and you are pretty much tenacious and will go after things. I have a lot of people like that reach out to us, and I'm pretty sure you have a lot of people that reach out to you. And I have people that email probably 2 or 3 times a day. That's not advocating. That's being, a nuisance.
Mm-hmm.
How do you balance being an advocate for yourself, being tenacious, and doing it with the right amount of tact to still get what you want?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I rely heavily on my convictions, and my convictions become so strong that I don't rest. I can't rest until I answer them. So over the course of time, I've been able to be a really good judge of how to approach situations. And like you said, there's a line between, being tenacious and being an annoyance, right? So you have to kind of find that balance. You have to learn people, the style of communication that works best for you. But you also have to maintain, your convictions, the things that you're passionate about, the things that you want to see happen. And you got to put your head down and do the work, because there is really no other path to success that's sustainable outside of you just, throwing the stuff at the wall, seeing what sticks, failing, getting up again, trying, until you reach, that place that you desire to be.
That's important. One more thing. I try to be a little ignorant when I come into interviews because I really want to follow my own curiosity a little bit.
Yeah.
But I did read a little bit about you, and nothing came across saying Alpha Chapter Delta Sigma Theta.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm the same way with my organization. It's not out front. It's almost if you know, you know.
Yep.
How has Delta helped you? And how do you balance that, putting it always front and center?
Yeah.
And still being, about the Delta life?
Yeah, great question. And this is actually a popular topic of conversation amongst like my line sisters and I, and other, people that are Greek affiliated. Because there's a lot of different kind of Greeks, if you will. Some that always have to wear the badge of honor, some that lead with that in conversation, some that make sure that you can find it if you search about them so you know. Um, when I decided to become a member, I was actually initially not interested in joining any organizations. So for me, and I think that comes with, the rebellious kid that I was. Like, I'm me. I don't need to join anybody's organization for recognition. But, when I got on Howard's campus, every student led organization was run by a Delta. And it caught my attention. I'm like, wow, these girls are tight. So at that moment, I started to research the organization. And my mother was already a member. My mother pledged at Temple in the 70s. And she's also like me. She doesn't lead with that, right? Like, she's a Delta, if you know. So I started to look into that organization a little more, and I became very attracted to it, very attracted to it. And that's what encouraged me to pursue initiation. Um, but, as I grow professionally and as I network, I use it as a conversation piece if necessary, right? Because I believe that Delta women are easily identifiable. I think that our reputation precedes us. I think that, and sometimes we play games with each other, right? Like, yeah, I'm Greek. Can you guess what I am, kind of thing. Sometimes there's a stereotypical things. Oh, she's fair skinned or she looks a certain way, so you're associated with another organization. But I think when you know somebody and you see who they are and what they represent, particularly from my chapter, we're easily identified, and we're women first. Delta is just something listed on the resume that we love and we are strong representatives of, but don't necessarily need that badge of honor to influence opinions or perceptions of us, if you will.
Why did you start HBCU Week?
So it was 2017. I'm in the mayor's office, and he tasks me in Wilmington, Delaware, with developing some programming that was specifically pointed at Wilmington's most underserved communities. So I started to think about, like, what could I do? And education kept, sticking out at me. So I wanted to make sure that there was something with an educational focus, whatever I did. And I live in a majority Black city, and I'm a double HBCU alum. So, in thinking about that, I'm like, how do I expose these students to the opportunities of HBCUs? They mean the world to me. These schools have developed me in a way that I wouldn't have been privy to if I chose another institution. So, I count it as a personal responsibility to expose as many students as I can to this opportunity. So, I at first, coordinated this college fair like setting where I was planning for about 200 students, 5 HBCUs at a hotel conference room, to get them just to engage with these recruiters to see what opportunities look like. So when we started to market the idea, the 200 students we planned for spiked to 700. And that's just in Wilmington, Delaware. Delaware is the second smallest state in our country. So I knew if there was an appetite like that for it here, there was potential for it to really expand. So when we did that initial college fair like setting, we had the 700 students. It was an electric atmosphere. The students were excited to learn what they were learning. And one of the things that our college fair offers is on the spot acceptances and scholarship awards. So if you're a graduating senior and you have that requisite SAT or ACT score and transcript, you can get offered a college acceptance on the spot and a scholarship. So since 2017, we've offered more than 3,500 acceptances on the spot, more than $23 million in scholarships directly from the HBCUs, with an additional $7 million a year from corporate partners. So we're also able to give anywhere between $10,000 and $50,000 per student in scholarships for students that apply through our foundation. So it's really expanded into this week long of really exciting events. I tried to emulate, I was vice chair of Howard Homecoming. So I tried to emulate that experience and bring it to Wilmington. So we do a week long of events, a comedy show, a concert. We do a battle of the bands, a panel discussion. But that college fair is really where our impact comes in.
Nice. Now, over the years, I've got a lot of questions about nonprofits and 501c3s. And I'm the type of person that doesn't like to speak on things that I haven't done. So I don't give any suggestions. Can you give us the process, good, bad, ugly, and suggestions for anyone who wants to start a nonprofit?
Yeah. So, I mean, if you want to start a nonprofit, be prepared to make sure that you are buttoned up, you're crossing those T's, dotting those I's, because audits are real. You need a board of directors that you can trust. You need an inside and outside counsel that's going to keep you honest. Because to be honest with you, there are a lot of rules around nonprofits and getting that 501c3 certification from the federal government. And any little thing you do can get you wiped off of that list, no longer considered. The benefits of being a 501c3 is not having to adhere to any taxes. So you do get a good benefit for that. So the donations that you get, you're not paying taxes. Um, but you have to make sure you're following those guidelines. And that's why I have a great team, because I don't have time to make sure that everything is running perfectly. I have people on my team that always make sure we're operating the right way. And I really, really appreciate them, because the foundation is growing into something that I could not have imagined. It's really blowing up, and we got to make sure, as more eyeballs are on us and more students are looking to participate, that we're doing things the right way. So my suggestion is to get good lawyers, get good board members, and make sure that you're following the rules, because there are great benefits to having a 501c3, but you have to make sure you're adhering to those rules as well.
Now, many people have used influencers to grow a brand. In my opinion, watching from afar and from just looking at the macro environment, you've probably done it the best.
Oh, thank you.
And you've been able to bring on the Stephen A's. Maybe I'm a sports guy and I'm watching Stephen A a lot, and I'm hearing him speaking on HBCU week, and it's really blown it up. How would you suggest others who want to bring big time influencers on board go about it? Is it relationships? Is it mission? Or is it a combination of both?
So for me, when it comes to my foundation, I'm not a fan of any, purely transactional relationships where you have people that just want to jump in and say, here, I'll offer you this or I'll offer you that. And I'll start with how we do our scholarship partners, and I'll go into the influencer side. So when it comes to our scholarships, or even our partners who sponsor our programming, we make sure that our interests align. As I'm sure you're aware, and the rest of the world is, we are going through a racial reckoning that our country probably has not seen since the civil rights movement, where there are companies that are stepping up saying, hey, we acknowledge this and we want to make sure we're supporting that for whatever reason. A lot of these companies are doing it to check a box, not because they care, not because they really want to see and affect change, but because they want to be able to say, get off my back, we supported X. So what I do is I vet every partner to make sure our interests are aligned before we get into any contractual relationship with them. Because from my perspective, there is no dollar amount that can supersede the fact that we need true allies. And I operate the same with our influencers. So with Stephen A, it was a win-win and a no-brainer. As an HBCU alum, as an advocate, we all know that Stephen A speaks up for what he believes in. So as an HBCU alum and an advocate with a huge platform that he has, we invited him down to our annual gala and we awarded him for, his advocacy and his donation to his alma mater, and how he speaks up about, the influence that Winston-Salem had on his career. And since then, he was very impressed with our programming, the impact that we had sustained, and he wanted to help us. So with him and with influencers that we're looking at to add on, it's always about, you don't have to necessarily be an HBCU alum, but are you at least HBCU adjacent? Like, do you have family members? Have you, participated in any events? Are you aware of the culture? Are you interested in advocating for that cultural experience? Are you aware of how important the historical significance of these schools are? Are you willing to spread the word? Just things of that nature. I think when there is authenticity in the partners that you bring on when it comes to messaging and their alliance, I think that's when you've won.
Now, this year you're doing two HBCU weeks, correct?
Yes, yes.
And one is at Disney, which is super exciting. And I was just down at Disney a couple months ago.
Mhm.
How did that come about? And can you walk me through the experience that a student will have when attending HBCU week in Delaware and at Disney World?
Yes. So the partnership with Disney honestly came about through Stephen A. ESPN. Disney is the parent company for ESPN, and in speaking with their vice president of production, he mentioned, maybe this is something we could do in Disney World. It was not even on my radar, but it was very exciting, obviously. So we got that conversation started with programming and how that would look. And Disney has been a fantastic partner. I mean, we couldn't ask for a bigger stage to be on with a more reputable partner. And we're so excited to be working with them. Our lineup of events in Disney, it'll go from October the 6th through the 9th. So on the 6th, there's a VIP reception happening that will have all of our who's, your Stephen A's and your other HBCU influencers. We have about a dozen HBCU presidents that will be there. It's really a time for the HBCU influencers to network, to get to know each other, and get the conversation started to continue to grow this work and this foundation. The next day, that Friday, will be the college fair. So the college fair, we already have 5,000 students signed up from the Central Florida area. So we have the students that'll come to the fair. We have 38 HBCUs right now committed. We're working on getting up to 50, and hopefully we can reach that number. And then Stephen A will do a broadcast live of First Take from the college fair. So it'll be very, very exciting. You'll have Disney characters in and out. You'll have a few bands that are going to be featured on First Take that'll come in and out of the fair to garner some more excitement. So that Friday will be a very exciting time. Saturday, we'll go to Magic Kingdom for a parade. We have 5 HBCU bands that will participate in the parade in Magic Kingdom down Main Street. I cannot wait to see this. That is going to be the most powerful demonstration of HBCU week culture in Disney. So we have North Carolina A&T's band, Bethune, Cookman, Winston-Salem, Alcorn, and Delaware State University that will participate. And then the day after that, that Sunday, those same 5 bands will compete for our Battle of the Bands. So Disney is going to be very, very exciting. And I'll do Wilmington as well. So Wilmington happens in September. So that's like right around the corner, September 21st through the 25th. On the 21st, we'll start with a happy hour and a concert. That concert will feature Fabulous and Maya. On Thursday, we'll have a middle school college tour. We have about 500 kids from the Wilmington, Delaware area that we're going to bus to Delaware State University to get them engaged a little earlier with the HBCU culture. So we'll tour them around the Delaware State campus, which will be exciting. And that evening, we'll have a panel discussion with some HBCU influencers. Friday, we'll have our college fair here in Wilmington. We have 27 schools signed up and another 5,000 students from Wilmington. So it's exciting to see that same excitement in little old Wilmington, still continuing to grow. And then that evening, we have a comedy show featuring Michael Blackson, which I'm looking forward to that. I need a good belly laugh. So looking forward to that. And then Saturday, we'll have a block party downtown Wilmington, and Sunday, a Battle of the Bands. That one will feature Howard University, Virginia State University, and Delaware State.
That's awesome, Ashley.
Thank
That's
you.
awesome.
It's exciting work. Thank you.
I salute you. Building something is hard.
Yeah.
Now, building something meaningful for thousands of people in our beloved HBCUs, that's even harder. I really wish you the best. I'm so proud of you. I know I've just met you, but I'm proud of you. Like I've known you since you were that same 14-year-old girl that you explained to me.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. It is a lot of work, but it's rewarding.
If someone wants to support HBCU Week or follow you, how can they?
So, hbcuweek.org, we have all the information on all of our events, how to register, how to purchase tickets to our ticketed events. If you want to make a donation, everything is there on that website, hbcuweek.org. And we're also, our social handle is HBCU Week as well on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you, Ashley. Thank you for your time. I wish you the best. Disney's exciting. I almost wish I would have saved the Disney trip until now.
Yeah, yeah, me too. I'll make sure you have all that information. If you can squeeze it in, we're happy to have you at our VIP reception, whatever you'd like to attend. And there's always next year as well. This is not a one-off opportunity. I can't say how many years we'll be at Disney, but it's not just a one-year experience. So I'll make sure you have that information early.
Sounds good. Thank you. All the best.
Thank you so much.
All right. Take care,
Take
Ashley.
care.